Hey guys, welcome back to the TED Show. I have been really looking forward to introducing you all to Rick Winner with Ziro Realty. We're going to talk about the Ziro Realty revolution. Y'all aren't going to believe this because when he sat down and told me all about what he does and how he does it and his why, I was fascinated and motivated, and I think you will be too. So welcome, Rick. How you doing today?
Doing well, Ted. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Excited for people to learn about you and what the Ziro Realty revolution is. But before we do that, let's get a little background 411 on you. Tell us a little bit about your beginnings and then how you got here, your why, how we got to Ziro Realty.
Okay. I grew up, my mother was a prominent realtor in Pennsylvania, owned a RE/MAX office in the 80s and 90s.
Wow.
To about 2000. So I lived through her real estate life vicariously and saw how hard she worked at it. And
it's hard work, right?
Yeah, well, and especially used to be really hard work. It's not as hard now as when she did it. They got one little black and white picture of a house description. They had to research them. They had to, a customer said, I want to find a 3-bedroom house in this price range. And she had to go preview them, pick up the keys, schedule. It was a lot of work.
A lot. And everything was paper back then. Paper.
And maps, and didn't even have MapQuest when she was doing it. So, that was my introduction to the industry, and I didn't get back into it until a few years ago. I decided to make some change.
What was the diversion? What was the in between that you did?
I'm sorry.
What was the in between that you did?
I own floor covering stores. Interestingly enough, my mother and father, who got divorced when I was very young, he was in the floor covering industry, and my mother was in real estate. So I went to school to be an architect, went to Penn State. My father asked me to help him out with some flooring stores and never really got into the architecture and started open flooring stores. So I had stores in Pennsylvania, which I still do, open stores here in Orlando. And just got burned out. I sold those a few years ago and looked for something new to do.
Something new, which brought you back to another part of your roots, which is real estate. What did you find in the market? Because what Ziro Realty does is, to me, completely different than anything else I've heard.
Yeah, well, I bought a lot of homes in Florida, and really got when I finally looked at the closing disclosures and saw what I was paying in commissions, I thought, this is just crazy. I'm paying, buying $1 million house and paying $60,000 worth of commission, or selling $1 million house, selling $60,000 in commission. I thought, this is just crazy. When my mom was selling $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 houses and making 3%, that made more sense than the numbers right now. So I thought, we've got to find a different way to do this.
But how? It's interesting to me, and I want you to explain, obviously, because I think people are always trying to find a different way, but nobody's really implemented a different way. Your solution, your revolution is really revolutionary. It is a challenge to all status quo, as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Well, if I'm listing you're selling a $200,000 house or a $2 million house, it's really the same thing, right? It's photos, showings, scheduling, paperwork. So why am I worth 10 times more to sell this $2 million house than I was the $200,000 house? I'm not. So we just decided it's a flat fee. We will list your house, sell it, market it, do the paperwork for $4,000, no matter what the price of the house is, because it's really all the same. None of the other agents want you to hear that and know that.
You're going to light some fires with this, right? As I'm sitting here thinking, and when you first told me, all I could think about are the people who are going to yell at me, in a sweet way, hopefully. But because honestly, that is complete opposite of everything that real estate professionals are taught. It's different than anything else in the market. And I'm fascinated by how that works. So a $2 million house or a $200,000 house, flat fee. And then go a little more deeper into why that rationale, because I think that's really where the meat of it is. You had an epiphany. You had an an idea like, well, okay, I can do all of this. I'll let you tell the story, not me.
Well, it really just came down to logic, and we just decided that we wanted to make it fair for everyone, and we cut out all the overhead. We just made it simple, and it's just been working.
So talk about it working, because so again, I'm just going to repeat it. So a $2 million listing or a $4 million or 400,000 or a 200,000 listing, it's all one flat fee.
Right.
So let me throw out things that I know people will want to know later. And if anybody's watching live, when you comment, I'm sure that Rick will get back to you. But a $2 million house, that they would have bigger expectations.
Do they? I mean, what more do you expect? It's funny, the training in this industry, when you watch these videos and how to get listings from people, and it's always, don't talk about the commission. Don't talk about those numbers. And I can give you picture after picture. I take screenshots of them, and how to get the listing, and you don't talk about what it's going to cost. And unfortunately, most people don't know what it costs until they get their closing disclosure, because they hear these low numbers, 2.5%, 3%, whatever. And that sounds like a tiny number until you're talking about, $30,000, not $300 when you're talking about buying or selling a house. So, but other than that, it's, we just do it all. There's nothing different really between a $2 million house and a $200,000 house as far as marketing. We do all of our marketing in-house. We market everything the same. We advertise everything the same. We do the same paperwork. We do the same negotiations. If you're selling a $2 million house, you'd like to think that there's something more to it, but there's not. It's a formula, and it works for every house. I mean, just about every house.
So I'll throw some things at you that I know people will ask. Okay. But Mr. Seller, but Rick's company obviously won't do the most beautiful pictures for any kind of marketing, won't work any kind of brokers open. Those are the things that I feel like would be things that other realtors who might also trying to get the listing would say. And how do you respond to that?
We do our own photos, and we're pretty darn good at it. We have drones. We do all of that. If our customer wants to have professional photographer come in and pay that money, they really only charge $200 or $300 to do a full package. So if you want to pay for that, you're welcome to pay for that. It's not $20,000. And it's funny you said, because that's an argument that other agents will say, well, we'll bring in professional photographers and blah, 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 and make it sound like it's a $20,000 investment. And it's $200 or $300. It's smoke and mirrors.
So tell me about the growth of the company, because I feel like when people hear this, because for me, it was the first time I had heard. So as word starts to spread, because I do hear a lot more people, a lot more consumers are asking about commission. I just did an event where a realtor friend of mine got up, and she was livid because the seller was pushing back on her commission because another realtor had said, well, I can do it for 2.5, or I can do it for whatever it was. Mm-hmm. So people are asking, and there are realtors out there that are pushing commission and saying, well, I'm worth it. And there's scripts out there. Like, there's a whole marketing thought process behind don't reduce your commission. So how do you market that to your sellers? Like, what's your marketing strategy that competes with that? I assume that if I'm a seller and you tell me that, that's where I'm going to go.
Right. Well, I mean, our marketing is, full service, full time. There's no difference. It makes no sense to pay that money. People always say, why are you so cheap? And I say, why are they so expensive? Explain to me what you think they're doing for you for $30,000 as opposed to our $4,000. Tell me what do you think is $26,000 worth of difference that they can do for you?
You know why I'm fascinated? I love anyone who disrupts anything, because I feel like we get stagnant, we get stuck in our ways, and that is not good for the market overall. So you're coming in and certainly challenging all of the past belief systems on how realtors are paid. What are you seeing in the market? Let's talk about the market a little bit, because I think people, if you listen to mainstream media on either side, the sky is falling, it's all crazy. But what are you seeing on your end, Rick?
In Orlando, we still have no inventory to sell. I haven't seen any prices go down. When interest rates first jumped up, we had a tiny lull, but really anything that's priced right that comes to market right now will be sold in days. And if it's not priced right. It's still a solid market here. Not everywhere in the country, but in Central Florida, it's prime time still.
I'm glad to hear that, because I think a lot of people are hesitant to dip their toe in because they're listening to the news. And remember, y'all, the news has to sell panic, and it's good for, nothing against my newscaster friends, it's good for TV. But if you really do the research and you look at the real numbers and you talk to anybody who's a professional in the industry, you're going to hear a different story. What about agents who are interested in coming on board? What's the sell there? What's the discussion there? Are you growing? Are you trying to recruit? Are you thinking about recruiting?
Yeah, we're growing. We're bringing on agents. We have no baloney fees. We take $500 out of any commission. It's not 20, 30, 40%. There are no national advertising fees. There are no desk fees. There's none of that baloney. It's $500. So while your commission may be a little lower on the listing side, you're also paying not much to be on it. We do all of your marketing for you. We are in the process of franchising. We are in the process of opening offices ourselves in New York, Pennsylvania, Texas, and California. All of our agents,
for me,
us are doing more sales and making more money than they ever made at a traditional agent.
Well, I would think that the spin, or at least, and it's the truth, it's not really the spin, is that if you are going head to head with somebody who's charging the traditional 3 or 6% or whatever their thought process is, the consumer is going to go for the lower your rate. And so I'll be interested when people really start picking up and watching this show, and any of my live people, just reach out to me and I'll get you to Rick, what the response will be. I am sure there are going to be naysayers all over the place. But I like disruption, and I like when we challenge the status quo, and you're certainly doing that. All right. One personal question I always like to ask Rick before we head out, and before I have you share all your contact information. When I say the word hero to you, who is the first person who comes to mind?
Hero. Wow. Steve Jobs.
Tell me why.
I grew up in his era. Yeah, he was a disruptor, quality focused. That was, he was a little eclectic guy, a little unusual, but he was, I think, all in all, a good business person and made quality and has a great legacy.
I love that. Nobody's answered that before, so I like that so much. Very good. All right, Rick, what's the best way for them to find out more about Ziro Realty and the Ziro Real Estate Revolution?
ZiroRealty.com, all one word. Facebook, Ziro Realty. Call me, 407-319-1505, or text.
I love it.
That's the best way.
All right, you're a joy. I know you're going to get lots of comments, calls, questions. God only knows what's going to happen after this, but I am excited for you. Come back on anytime. You guys go to Ziro Realty, and that's ZIRO Realty.com, or you can reach out to Rick via phone, or you can reach out to me and I will get you to Rick. Rick, what a joy. I can't wait to see what 2023 brings for you all, because I know it's going to be good stuff. And I think it's going to change the way people think. And I always like that. So thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Ted. Have a good day.
All right, guys, reach out to Rick. You're going to, or you want